Oh, got it. Wait, got it there
I
too.
also
Got
have
it.
it.
Lulu, stop.
Oh,
Tonight,
Lulu.
we will be covering the 1998 stoner mockumentary Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Is it really a stoner movie though? Like they do way more than just grass.
Wikipedia said it's a stoner mockumentary, dark comedy, something,
Is it?
something. It
Okay.
had a lot of stuff that it said, but part of it was stoner mockumentary. I figured I would take it. So my synopsis is that this movie is about a guy who does a ton of drugs. He goes on an adventure in Las Vegas um, with another guy who does a ton of drugs. Or is
Yes.
it? The
I mean,
main character is always messed up out of his mind, and there are a lot of moments where you're left questioning if what actually happened. And by the end of this movie, I was like, did anything in this movie happen? Did anything of substance happen that was actually recorded? Like, what was the point of this movie? I don't know. What do you think, Ben? Did I summarize it well?
uh I mean, I want to start with unfortunately, but then that feels bad because I feel like I'm just talking shit about the movie. But I know unfortunately I get to the end of this movie and I'm like, what did I just watch? Like we've talked about drug movies before. I think we usually will bring up Get Him to the Greek, but Get Him to the Greek is like this funny linear, here we go. It's like a ride you're on. Whereas this ride, I remember going to see this movie in the theater. And by the time Benicio del Toro is waving around the knife and being completely fucking out of his mind, I was like, this is a lot of anxiety on the screen right now. I feel really nervous about what's going to happen next every time this guy's on the screen. And then you get the break, and it's like, oh no, you're supposed to be at Vegas doing this other story. And he comes back to the hotel, and here's Benicio del Toro with Christina Ricci and a bunch of Barbara Streisand paintings. And it's like, what the fuck is going on here? Uh, and the amount of drugs and the scope of drugs are so far beyond what seems like a, a
It
normal
doesn't seem
couple of guys
possible.
having a druggy weekend. It's like, holy shit. Yeah, you got adrenaline gland. You can only get this from a human. It's like, yeah, I got it from a Satanist who couldn't pay me. It's like, what? What's that now?
Yeah. This movie, I picked this movie for the viewers out there. And when I picked this movie, I said to Ben, it's been so long since I've seen this, it'll be like the first time again. And then as I'm watching it, I was like, I have never watched this movie before. I would have remembered my
It
thoughts on
didn't
this
just feel like
movie.
the first time, it was the first time.
And yeah, I was left pretty confused the whole time. But question for you. Who's the friend that comes to mind for this kind of road trip for you? If you were to pick one person to go on this road trip with, who would it be?
Oh, it'd be somebody who's done vastly more drugs than I have and could be kind of a guru to walk me through it. So probably Kenny, I would say, and I don't even know what Ken has done, but he could definitely be my Dr. Gonzo and be like, as your attorney, I advise you to go find that brown bottle and take a little bit of it, but not too much. Uh, yeah,
As
I
your
would say
attorney.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, as your attorney, I advise you to rent a fast car.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was a good recurring quip, actually, was the
Mm-hmm.
as your attorney. Um, yeah, mine would probably be Joe. Love you, Joe.
Yep. I don't know,
Also,
Joe.
How does
You
this
think
guy have
Joe
a
could do adrenaline? You think Joe could do a, the juice from an adrenaline gland of a human or
I don't know. I
ether?
just feel like out of everyone, because like, all right, for the viewers, Russ pretty lightweight when it comes to anything beyond the legal substance of alcohol. And when you're gonna do some weird stuff, you want somebody that you trust who has like a certain kind of approach with a voice that can calm you. I feel like Joe would maybe make me not freak out as much and be like, hey, I know what you're going through right now. It happened to me once before.
See, normally Joe would be my guy, but I feel like I would be saddling him with a unwanted role
Well,
if I were
yeah.
to say my guy would be Joe. I feel like he'd be like, "Don't put that on me." Uh, Whereas Kenny might be like, "All right, but I'll leave you in the fucking dust if you can't keep up."
Well, I
And
don't
so
know,
I try
Kenny.
and keep up.
Kenny sounds like Benicio del Toro with a knife. Uh, hey, how does this guy have a job? Does he have a job? Is he making it up? Like,
I mean,
what?
Hunter S. Thompson definitely, did journalism. He sold pieces that he wrote. And like in the movie, when he talks about standing in Vegas, looking west, remembering Haight Ashbury, and watching the wave break and roll back, I was like, that's really good writing. That was a very beautiful piece. But was it running up $15,000 worth of charges at a hotel worth of writing? I don't know about that. Uh, but he became an icon,
Yeah, Hunter S. Thompson. So, like, one of the things that actually at the very end of this movie, I'm trying to make sense of it, and he says some things, he narrates some things, just some words that it's mostly when Benicio del Toro's character is leaving and he actually puts pen to paper and like does something like, okay, this whole trip, this is what came of it. But all he does is he says like a few things, and they're actually pretty interesting. But it definitely does not give you any sort of closure, any sort of substance for the movie. But one thing he said was he's one of God's prototypes, too weird to live and too rare to die. And when he said that, I was like, oh my God, that's my friend John. And I told him that. I just told him that line last night, and he said to me today, is that from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas? I am honored. So I thought that was
nice,
a good fit. But I did a little research on Hunter S. Thompson, and he actually started a subgenre of journalism called gonzo. Did you
right?
read about that at all?
I have read about it before.
Yeah, and it's it's where the writer becomes the a central figure and participant of the film. And like
Mhm.
when I learned that, I was like, okay, this movie makes a little more sense, just a little bit more. But overall, no. So, Ben, could you rate this movie for me?
Uh, I mean, so I wouldn't, in the context of movies that are nonstop drug use, it goes in there. Normally, I would not recommend this movie to anybody. I don't think since I saw it in the theater, I have thought like people don't need to see this. And Terry Gilliam directed it. So,
That's your guy.
I
That's
mean,
your guy.
that's correct. That is my guy. I have loved a lot of his movies. I would say his best is 12 Monkeys. I looked at his whole
Yeah, more
list
than
tonight. And
more than Monty Python.
I mean, aside from Monty Python,
Okay.
Monty
Yeah, it's
Python's its
it's
own thing.
12 Monkeys is better than the Brothers Grimm. So, I'll give it to
Right. Matt Damon. Anyway, uh, yeah. So with Gilliam, I mean, it's well acted, and it's crazy to think like where this was at in all of these actors' careers, because this is 1998. So some of these people are not unknowns, and there's a ton of cameos. So I give it a C minus,
Hmm.
and would say if you're looking to just watch an absolute vomit of technicolor on a screen for 2 hours, this is it.
Yeah. Okay. I want to wholeheartedly agree with you. I was bouncing back and forth between C minus and D plus because this movie, I did not enjoy it. Um, I would never watch it again, and I would never recommend it to anyone. Now, when I say those
An
things,
F.
yeah, when I say those things, I would also say there were certain parts of it I really liked, and I would tell the same people that like I don't think you should watch this movie. Here's why, but here's the stuff I liked about it. And the cameos were even not the cameos, like Benicio del Toro, not a cameo, fucking amazing in this movie. Like, I love him when he's on screen in any movie for me. Um, this was probably my least favorite role that he's done, but still, it was like taking his usual suspects character and giving him a bunch of drugs and just seeing what he does with that. And
Slapping 80 pounds on him.
yeah, and I enjoyed watching him. Watching Johnny Depp didn't really give a shit about Johnny Depp at all. He didn't really make me laugh much at all. Benicio del Toro, I felt had a lot more actual like I don't know. When he did
Which
stuff
is,
I could laugh sometimes. Johnny Depp, I don't think I laughed for at all.
yeah. But the interesting part about that is Johnny Depp spent 4 months hanging out with Hunter S. Thompson, be trying to become him and mimic his patterns. And like Hunter S. Thompson has even said what a great job he did. And like you said, yeah, how often are you laughing at Johnny Depp in this movie? When everybody turns into a lizard in the lounge, that's pretty
Yep.
fucking funny though.
The lizard scene was one of my specific call outs. Like
Yeah.
they're all basically having incest and eating each other, and they are lizard people. And he's just like freaking out, looking around. Then he just suddenly snaps out of it, and Benicio del Toro is there again. And it's like, hey, it's like,
Yeah.
what was that?
The sweet's ready. Let's go.
Um, yeah, this movie had some great parts, and the great parts for me were the people. Um, did you enjoy Benicio del Toro? Because I would say he kind of kept me coming back for more. Like on as far as like the whole movie goes, if there's anything that kept me interested throughout the entirety of it, it would be him. It's definitely not Johnny Depp.
Yeah. I mean, as I've said, and I'll say again, when I saw it in the theater, he gave me a lot of anxiety. I
Oh
found that
yeah.
he was my number one reason why I didn't like the movie, is because I was constantly waiting for him to just start killing people, or I didn't even know what. It was he was so chaotic. But watching it again this time, looking back, like, yeah, no, his acting is pretty great. Especially there's a scene when they're walking down the hotel hallway, and I'm like, this is Johnny Depp right here, who even in 1998 is his own person, has his own mythology around him. And here's Benicio del Toro, who's been in a couple of movies, been doing what he's doing, but he's keeping up with them and maybe even eclipsing him a little bit in every scene. And yeah, I find that the real chops there are probably with Del Toro. Not that, definitely became somebody else, but I think he was so enamored with getting to play this other person that yeah, he loses it a little. He played it a little too straight, whereas he should have played to the camera a little more. And but the movie never really figures out if it's supposed to be a comedy or a drama. It's not supposed to be any genre. It's supposed to be this shifting
Dude,
amalgam of just
like, what are you
chaos.
watching? What are you watching when you watch this movie? Your sound cut out. But what are you watching when you watch this movie? I think the scene for me that sums up the difference between the two of them the most is the scene at the diner where Benicio del Toro demands the what's that pie called? Lemon meringue pie to the woman, and he freaks her out, and it's really well acted in a way that you're not enjoying as a viewer. But the
Right.
entire time, Johnny Depp just sits there. He doesn't say anything. He's just looking at like food and the paper, and he's smoking,
Yeah.
and he does not participate in the good acting between Benicio del Toro and the woman. And I felt like that was the movie to me. And you did not enjoy that scene. You did not like what Benicio del Toro was
Right.
doing or anything, but his acting was very good.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. And with the Johnny Depp thing, I feel like that happens a lot in the movie. And I almost feel like it's his character wants to not engage so that if he needs to just walk away at any given moment from this other guy, he's able to do it plausibly. It's being like, what do you, I haven't been involved in this thing the entire time. Uh,
Right. Right.
yeah,
I feel like what you said about the two of them, where like as an actor, Johnny Depp totally eclipses Benicio del Toro. Like you could just take Pirates of the Caribbean versus Benicio del Toro's body of work and say, like, dude, I'm sorry. He made so much more money than you, no matter how hard you try. Um, and that's Benicio del Toro in like every movie he's in. He's never the actor like the juggernaut who is the name that's carrying the movie. Even in Sicario, you watch that and he
watched
is
it twice in the last month.
like, yeah, he's incredible. And he's kind of like that's the peak of his name right there. And it's still like even the movie itself, like Sicario, a lot of people just what's that movie? Um anyways,
Awesome. But yeah, and
yeah.
a lot of it's Josh Brolin. But yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, Thanos. Uh what about Don Draper, John Hamm playing
What about him?
so for me, this is my first time watching this movie. I've seen Mad Men before I watched this movie. So I got to see Don Draper from Mad Men playing the gay guy at the check-in stand, being like, "Oh my god, you're just pissing me off." And he looks exactly the same as Don Draper in Mad Men, who just, sits back in the chair, smokes a cigarette, women just fall on his lap, and he's just like points at some paper, and people are like, "All right, I'll give you $500,000 to make some marketing campaigns for us." And just to see him in that role, I was like, honey, is that Don Draper? And she was like, you mean John Hamm? Yes. Did that just, was that a great cameo for you? Or where was that in the list of your cameos of this movie?
All right, now let me just I just need to I need to confirm this. You're talking about when the guy who's been in a shit ton of movies is trying to get his room, and he does the little thing of this gay guy is like, I've been fucked over by you
Yes.
white cops so many times. I'm gonna get my that's not John Hamm.
Yes, it is.
No.
Who is it? I gotta Google it.
Uh Give me just one sec
You've
and
done
I'll
this before.
tell you.
You've
It's
done this
Christopher
before.
Maloney. Christopher Maloney.
Is it
Yes. Yes. Who
from
is plays the
CSI?
douche in a lot of stuff. Yeah. Yes.
I love him in Law and Order.
Yeah.
Um, no, it's
Not
not.
John Hamm. Yeah, 100%.
I really liked it more as John Hamm. I should have looked it up as the host, but I was like, nah, it's John Hamm.
Nope,
Um,
definitely not. How about seeing Mini Me way before Austin Powers, right? When did Austin Powers come out? Maybe it's not way before. I feel like 98. It's like so much has happened in these 2 years previous to this
no,
movie.
because the first Austin Powers came out like the year after that, right?
Yeah.
Austin Powers 97, the first one.
Yeah. So again, it's like, oh, this is before he was anybody. But then it's like, oh, no, it's 98. Like Cameron Diaz being into it. The Mask
Yeah.
had come out and made her a big star already. Fucking, dude, I mean, tons,
Was she in Very Bad Things
tons
by
of
then?
people in this movie. Huh?
Okay. So my favorite cameo, I'll skip down to it, but Gary Busey. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
before you
As the
interrupt me,
sheriff.
Gary Busey wasn't playing a cop. Gary Busey was playing Gary Busey dressed as a cop. Like the shit that he said, just absolute insanity. And and like anyone out there who's actually watches this show, have you seen Gary Busey on YouTube recently? And the like, let me let me tell you about whatever the fuck he says. I want to kiss it on the lips. And like, let me tell you about fried bacon. And I love the taste of the fat. And like whatever the like people are just he's a
Yeah,
whole
it's
meme right now where he's just
kind of
saying
sad.
things and people are inserting themselves responding in a confused manner to him just saying shit. Like that's
Right.
Gary Busey. But that's been Gary Busey for years. Do you remember the show I'm with Busey?
Well, yeah, and that is after he got into his car accident. Pardon me. Got into his motorcycle or car accident, sustained brain damage, believe he saw the afterlife, and was brought back. He's had a whole second career after those things happened. And yeah, he is fucked up.
I remember. So I actually watched I'm with Busey for a minute with I think John and Mike were going to college when that show came out. So I'd go to their apartment at Emeryville and we would just get fucked up and we would watch weird shit. And Gary Busey, thankfully, was on at that time doing weird
How fucked
stuff.
up.
Yeah,
Ether binge.
we did. No, it was nothing like this movie, but it was like vodka at the worst. But I remember specifically the guy who follows Gary Busey around on I'm with Busey. He is walking next to a horse, and Gary says to him, "Don't stand that close to a horse's rear end." And he's like, "What?" And he says, "A horse can shit for miles. It'll knock your head off if you stand that close." And the guy's just like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes on and on about how thick a horse's butt muscle is and that the thickness of it can shoot shit out at a really high velocity, hard enough to kill a man. And he's absolutely serious when he's saying this
Yeah,
shit. And there's like, the guy who's on I'm with Busey is like a 24-year-old kind of nerdy dude maybe never had friends. And he's just like, what are you doing, Gary? Why are you telling me this stuff? That's the Gary that you
Trying to
get to
save your
see.
life, man.
That's the Gary that you see in this movie. So the sheriff pulls him over and he tells him, what? Go up to the next town, take a nap. I don't understand why any of that happened. Why did Ben? Can you enlighten me?
Sir, he recognized who he was, wanted
Why?
to not arrest him, which he knew he should have. And he said,
Why?
look, I'm telling you right now, go up the road to the rest stop, sleep, and you can get back on your way. That's how I'm going to get out of telling myself I need to bring you in right now.
Why to any of that? Why did he
Because it's a
recognize who he
movie.
was?
Because it's a movie. He improv the "Can I have a little kiss" at the very end. And at first, I guess it wasn't. Nobody else thought it was funny, but the more Terry Gilliam watched it in playbacks, he was like, "That's actually really funny."
There was no point leading up to that in the whole movie where this person's like famous. So why would he recognize who he is? Why does he want to let him get off? Why later when Johnny Depp is driving down the road is he like, "Oh no, if I just gun it here, he's going to chase me down." Like he's never following. I don't understand why any of that scene happened other than let's let Gary Busey come on here and say some weird shit,
All right,
which
here's
is
a
just the whole
cameo.
movie.
Yeah,
Tell me about Tobey Maguire. What do you feel about Tobey Maguire?
I thought I had completely forgotten he was in it. So when I saw him, I thought that was probably honestly my favorite cameo to see Tommy Maguire as the kid because I barely remember the kid they pick up. But then when it's Toby Maguire, I was like, oh, that's really funny. And he plays it really scared. I thought it was pretty great. Toby
Dude,
Maguire
when he
cracked
sees
me
him
up.
again the second time in that town, and
Yeah,
he doesn't look scared of him or anything. He's just like happy and waving at him. And then he backs up like freaks the fuck out and drives away.
right.
I'm just like, what is happening? Like, is that the reason the cop knew about him? Like, what the fuck is going on in this whole fucking movie? But Toby Maguire, when I saw him doing a weird cameo, was there anything that came to your mind right away?
For weird cameos
Yeah,
or
because
just Toby Maguire.
there's definitely one that stands out to me, and it's
What's that?
him in Grindhouse when he's the priest's like fuck boy on
Oh,
the
the him and Robert Downey Jr.
yeah.
Dude, oh my God, that is one of the funniest. That is probably the funniest of all of them. But yeah, dude, and I don't even. That's not Grindhouse. That's uh
Is that Tropic Thunder? What is that?
Tropic Thunder. Tropic
No,
Thunder.
okay.
That is 100% how they introduced Robert Downey Jr.'s character. Yeah, and when it's Toby Maguire, oh fuck, dude, so funny,
I just
so funny.
remember Grindhouse had all those fake commercials, so I figured it was that movie, but or
Yep.
fake
No, yeah,
movie trailers.
that's right.
Those were the cameos that I had that really stood out to me. List the ones that I missed.
I mean, the woman who checks him into the hotel at first, that's Mona from Who's the Boss. I don't you probably don't even know, but seeing her, it's like shit. I haven't seen her in something in a long time. The guy who plays the cameraman, which I love it when he comes in the room, they're like, "You're not Portuguese." Uh, Really funny. He played Max Bear in Cinderella Man. Uh, Few other things as well. Really like that. And I mean, besides that, I pretty much stopped writing them down because there are so many. But honestly, yeah, Toby Maguire, when it's him standing there on the side, I'm like, holy shit, that's hilarious,
At
dude.
first, for like, there was a good 3 seconds, and it felt like the longest 3 seconds ever, where I was like, who is that? Because his hair's like obviously not his hair. Maybe it is, but it's thinning. but
Right?
it's also supposed to make him look young. And it was just so weird. And then I was like, oh, that's my Spider-Man. That's my favorite
That's right.
Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire. The pie is so good. Uh, anyways,
Pie is so good.
dude, it's so good. When he was evil
Uh,
Spider-Man because he got a little bit of venom in him, that was great.
right? And he became
Um,
a jazz dancer.
yeah, dude, when they tried to make Tobey Maguire look like a villain for 45 minutes in that movie, I don't know. I just got a kick out of it. All right, I've
Made
got
me so
one,
mad. Made me so
two
mad.
more, two more little parts here. So,
Okay.
other 1998 comedies.
Oh,
Are any of these worse than this movie? Half Baked,
definitely not.
Waterboy,
Absolutely not.
Rush
Cultural
Hour.
phenomenon. Uh, do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? No way, dude. Rush Hour was great.
Rush Hour, I own all of them, by the way. Sonia bought them for me for my birthday because I love Rush Hour. Um,
Nice.
Dirty Work.
No, I own the DVD of Dirty Work still. Norm Macdonald. No, not
Here's
a
the
great movie by any means, but cannot
it's
say bad things about
it's
it.
better than this movie. Here's the
Yep.
only one that, and I still think it's better than this movie. A Night at the Roxbury.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
stupid. I would never want to watch it again right now at this point in my life, or I wouldn't recommend it to anyone over the age of 30 or just in general because people below that aren't won't even figure it out anymore.
Dude,
But
I whatever. That's from one of the best periods of time at SNL. Great. I love that movie, dude. Chaz
it's
Palminteri. Did
it's
you
got
touch
some
my
parts in it.
ass?
Yeah, it's got some parts in it that are just way better than anything this movie can do. So
Dude,
yeah,
when Molly
this
Shannon is
movie
basically they almost raping Will Ferrell, but let's say it's consensual. And she's talking about merging their businesses and she climaxes shouting IKEA. It's one of my favorite things in a movie. It makes me laugh every time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, those were the big name comedies I could find from this year, and all of them, like I thought, were quite a bit better than this movie, which is
Yeah.
really sad. Um, drugs.
Drugs, drugs,
Got we got to
drugs.
end on drugs, right?
I
Um,
guess so.
you can ask me some drug questions if you want, but do you remember your worst trip? Because I know mine.
Yeah.
Let's talk
I,
about it.
I let's talk about it. It wasn't actually that bad for me. I don't think I ever had a really bad personal trip, but there was a house full of people. Mushrooms were taken, and most of the people were on a very happy vibe, and a couple people were not. So uh, there was, let's call it seven people. I don't need to name them all, but seven people or so. And me and one or two other people had left and were walking around, and it was really refreshing and it was great and we were having a good time. And then we got back to the house, and like, I don't know how many times you've done LSD, and this isn't a story about LSD, but space when you're on LSD becomes very interesting. I remember being in my car, and it's very much you've got this square rectangle of space that you're inhabiting, and then somebody in the back seat of the car speaks, and all of a sudden it pops out to this square space. Very interesting on LSD. So when we got in the house and we shut the door behind us, like the sounds and the vibe coming from inside of the house was like we took a turn into a horror movie. And it was just one guy was being very harassing towards a couple other people who were like, get him out of here. And then one of the roommates of the house had taken the mattress off his bed, rolled himself into it like a burrito. And when he we were like, dude, what's going on? And he unrolled, got up, and looking into his eyes, they couldn't focus and they were moving so crazily that I was like, he needs to get back in that burrito bed. We need to close this door and just deal with one problem instead of two. And yeah, the rest of the night progressed in a very not awesome way. That's for sure my worst trip.
Yeah, I
Who's
smoked
that?
weed and I mean, there was a little bit of alcohol involved too. I vomited. I, it was, I was still living at home. I told my friends to get my mom who was sleeping. I had a panic attack. I said to call 911. They did because they're assholes. And then my mom told me, "Don't you dare get in that ambulance." And I was like, "Mom, I'm going to die." She's like, "Let me take you to the hospital. It's fine." And I was like, "No, I'm going to die. I need to get in the ambulance." And she was like, "You're
Hey,
paying for this."
$10,000 bill.
She said, "You're paying for this." And I was like, "That's okay. I'm going to die." And yeah, that's why I never did anything worse than weed because it was a lot of money.
A lot of money. That's good for your mom to say, don't you get in that ambulance.
Yeah. She was really
Yeah.
cool about it. She actually went to the hospital, sat there, and she was like, "So what did we learn?"
Because your friends are assholes. Yeah, God, who the fuck? Who,
They
yeah,
should have
you
just
need a
not got
guru.
my mom and been like,
Yeah.
"No, we need to
Yep.
distract this guy."
That's right.
Yeah.
Listen to what I'm explaining to you. I'm going to be your Sherpa of the crossfade. Yeah. There's no reason to go to the hospital. You have not done anything that's going to shut down your internal organs.
Yeah. Then our the guy who mowed my mom's lawn, don't you dare, uh came with his dog the next day, and his dog ate all my vomit, and he told me about it. It was really weird. That's how we're going to end
Was
the
he
show
like,
tonight, folks. I hope you
was he proud
enjoyed
of that?
this. I don't know. Told me about it
Yeah.
like 10 years later. Uh yeah, I just ran into him and he's like, "Hey, you want to know a story?" Anyways,
You're
Fear
like,
and
not
Loathing in
that
Las
one.
Vegas. Don't do
Fear and
drugs.
loathing.
Don't do drugs.
Yeah. Nothing's worse
Uh
than a man caught in the
probably
depths of an ether
probably
binge.
don't watch this movie too unless you, I don't know. Unless you watch this and you thought, "I want to watch that movie." I think then we definitely prepared you.
Yep. Just sit back and let it happen.
Yeah.